Good morning again. I hope that I hope that it's not lagging now. I hope that everything is going well. Unfortunately, over on Restream, it looks like things just messed up. So give me a second. We're going to get this going. We're going to talk about your heart this morning and how your hypertension is linking in or is an early warning this thing called causing all of those things. But the blood pressure itself causing some anxiety, some fatigue, and the vascular issues that go along with it can also cause things like erectile dysfunction and some problems with gout and whatnot. So, hang out. We're going to talk about 5 ways that insulin resistance is linked to your blood pressure and why this is so important. 95% of high blood pressure is caused by insulin resistance, and that's wide sweeping. So, hopefully the lagging problem has been fixed. Hopefully all of that's taken care of. My life, everyone's life is full of challenges. I love them, but I don't some days. So everybody, while you're hopping in, I'm getting some stuff fixed over on the other platforms. And then we're going to talk about all of that. Okay, I think I got it under control now. All right. So, whoop, maybe not. There it is. Okay. Well, I want to talk about it. Insulin resistance, you guys, is just really a glucose regulation problem. Glucose, the main transporter of glucose is going to be this hormone called insulin. When we have too much glucose too often, it exceeds our need for insulin, and that high level of insulin in our body all the time causes some resistance. Any component in our body is too much, we start to have problems with it. That's what's going on with insulin resistance. It's caused by our modern food environment primarily, and fixing it is easier than you ever thought possible. We're going to come back to that in a little bit, but right now what I want to talk about is all of these things up above. Yes, those are all linked to insulin resistance. Yes, they are. If you see yourself in at least 2 of those things on the list, you're probably insulin resistant and should get it taken care of. Now, when I say get it taken care of, I'm not talking about medications. There's an easier way. So understand, if it's foodborne, a medication is not going to fix what's foodborne. We need to fix what's wrong with our foods so we can start to feel better. All right. But hypertension with insulin resistance, when the cells are resistant to insulin, what's actually happening when we talk about it, it's not that every cell in the body is resistant. Most of the cells are like, don't like you right now. You're annoying. I don't want to talk to you. We're done. And they are not taking in the insulin, which is bringing in the glucose that gives your cells energy. Some cells are taking in too much of it, and then that's causing problems. We talked about that when we talked about skin, and we talked about that when we talked about aging. So if you didn't get to see the previous ones, we're going to go over all that stuff again in upcoming weeks. But all of those previous live videos can be found on YouTube. So just find me there. Just type in Misha Fayant, and you'll be able to watch all the replays of whatever it is that you want to talk about. But let's start with nitric oxide. Nitric oxide in your system is what allows your blood vessels to dilate. And it's that thing that says, okay, blood vessels, the heart's pumping faster. We want to get more blood flow through. And so it opens up the blood vessels. With insulin resistance, it impedes the production of nitric oxide. So your blood vessels are never getting the cue to open up, and they're just staying tight. And so that means that as the heart is pumping faster, those vessels are not opening up and your blood pressure is going up. So not enough nitric oxide because insulin is impeding that is number one. Then we have one of those cells that I call drama queens. They are the endothelium, the innermost lining of the blood vessels, and they're taking up too much insulin. And that excess insulin is causing them to thicken and grow. So as that inner wall is growing and thickening, it's further narrowing down the space inside your blood vessels. So what I always talk about is, if you took the volume of a fire hose and then tried to push it through the size of a garden hose, you'd have some pretty severe pressure there, right? That's what's happening inside your body when those endothelium are getting too thick. And by the way, those endothelium are what's producing that nitric oxide. So they're unhealthy. They're not functioning correctly. Now you have the nitric oxide and the endothelium that are causing narrowing of your blood vessels. But there's another one. It's called the fight or flight response. Normally, we have this rise in cortisol and we have this fight or flight that's going on to tell our body, hey, it's time to get moving. There's danger. We got to go. And so your blood starts pumping harder. And that's all great news. But when you start doing that constantly at a small level, what happens is your blood, your heart is pumping harder, but you have these smaller, tighter blood vessels, right? So now your blood pressure is increasing even more. So we did nitric oxide, we did endothelium, and we did fight or flight or cortisol, because insulin increases cortisol, but cortisol also can increase insulin. So it's more important to get rest and ease of mind, all of that. Now, the one that you guys hear about a lot, there's two that you guys hear about a lot in relation to your blood pressure, and that is your cholesterol and salt intake. So what's happening with salt intake and blood pressure is this. When you have insulin resistant kidneys, they're no longer able to produce a chemical called aldosterone or hormone in proper amounts. And aldosterone tells your kidneys how to regulate salt, when to get rid of it and when to hold on to it. With insulin resistance, that cue is happening dysfunctionally, and now you're holding on to more salt than you should, and it's not going out in the urine. The excess is not going out. So when you think about where salt goes, water goes, now you're holding on to more water. You have edema, you have swelling, you have all these things, but that's also happening in your blood vessels. So now more water, more pressure, tighter vessels, and we have a problem. And that's only 4 ways. But the last way, insulin resistance causes high blood pressure. And then I'm going to come back to some of these questions. I'm not missing your questions, guys. I'll come back and answer them all. But looking like Ed, that T-Rex, that's not the first time I've been told I look like Edna. And it is what it is. I look like I look like. So way number 5 is your cholesterol. Now, people will say you got to get the yolks out of your eggs, you got to do this, that. The dietary cholesterol is not causing the problem. The cholesterol your body creates through your liver is the problem. When you have high levels of sugar, your body is converting into cholesterol dysfunctionally. So, and more of it. So it's going to affect your liver, it's going to affect your gallbladder, but in the blood pressure, what's happening is it's creating more of a certain type of LDL, the low density lipoprotein. So when we look at LDL, there's actually 2 types of LDL. There's a type A that's big and buoyant, and there's a type B that's small and dense. So I want you guys to visualize like standing on a bridge over a river. You throw some beach balls in the river, and they're just going to kind of bounce around, and they're going to go on down the river. Thank you for the loves, guys. But if you have the type B, the little golf ball size one, you throw that in the river, and it may float along for a little while, but it's going to settle. You throw a bunch of those in, and they're going to all start settling in the same place. Now you have a problem with the size of the river at that location. So now you have some blockages. That's what's happening. Insulin resistance is cueing you to produce more of the type B LDL, and that's causing that cholesterol blockage in your bloodstream. So is it fats that's causing that blockage? No. In fact, there's some science coming out that says those saturated fats like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee, and yes, the animal fats are actually helping with this problem. But we've been told wrong for 60 years, and people just like grabbed a hold of that and leaned into it, even though there was no science behind what Ansel Keys said 60 or plus years ago. So understand that sugar is causing your salt retention problem. Sugar is causing your LDL problem. So why am I so hard on sugar? Because our body needs it for energy, but we're getting too much of it in too quickly, and it's causing a problem. So I want to show you guys something really quick this morning. Sorry, that internet issue this morning kind of threw me off a little. So if I seem a little off today, I seem a little off every day, Miss Edna. um, just know that I got distracted. So let's take a look at this really quick. Look what happens. Whoop, flip camera. Plus, I moved my office yesterday, and so now I'm just a little discombobulated all the way around. Okay, so when we have high levels of sugar, what's happening is you're getting this blood sugar spike. Insulin is elicited to grab a hold of that sugar and get it out to the body. And in a normal situation, insulin's like, okay, there's some sugar here. We're going to go deliver it. And the cells are taking it up and you're okay. But in the instance of insulin resistance, you did this over and over and over so many times that now insulin is panicked. Oh my gosh, there's more blood sugar. We got to get rid of it because they're going to put more in. And I got to get this out of the bloodstream because only 1 teaspoon of glucose in the bloodstream, or we start to have problems. So now you have insulin that's hyperactive, that's taking this glucose and delivering it too quickly. And so you guys ever eat and you have a blood sugar drop and you feel tired, you feel cold, you feel like you just can't function for all of a sudden. That's what's happening. Now, when insulin is high, it's blocking your fat breakdown, it's increasing fat storage, and it's creating a block for fat burning. So we got to get the insulin down in our system. That's why I talk about sugar being so damaging to our system, besides all these other things. I'm going to go back and we're going to answer some questions. And before I go on, let me fix this. Okay, so let's go back up and see these questions that you guys have had. I love when you guys ask questions, by the way. So let me see if I missed any. IBS. Let me write that or remember that. So you were put on Rybelsus for insulin resistance, but it killed your stomach. You guys, let's think about it. And I love that comment, not for what it did for you, but for the fact of it. It talks about what I've been saying. So when we're doing medications for a dietary problem, are you guys deficient in a medication? And one thing that I know after working in the medical industry for years, hi Pixel Boy, is that medications are causing, they're trying to mask one symptom because they're really, most of them are not addressing a symptom. Antibiotics, yes, but even over courses of antibiotics can cause other problems. But normally what happens, what I saw in the medical clinics was when somebody was put on a medication, it caused other side effects, and then they were put on another medication, and that medication caused side effects or exacerbated the side effects from the other one. Now this is this cavalcade of medications that they're on. One lady that came into one of the clinics I worked at brought me in 2 bags of medications. I'm doing her intake, asking all the questions, doing everything for her. We get to the question about what medications are you on, and she just started crying. And she reaches into this huge bag of purse and she pulls out 2 paper bags full of medications, and she just literally just like almost threw them at me and said, you go figure it out. I don't even know anymore. I can't write it down. I can't keep track of them. I have a hard enough time taking them. And as I'm putting all of her medications into the EMR, I realized that most all of it started from one thing, from her chief complaint. She was given a medication and it went to another medication and then it led to another medication. But all of these medications she was on were just running here and running there to deal with the symptoms that were being created because of the medications she was being put on. That's craziness, you guys. That's insanity. Okay, so we want to deal with the food that we're getting in and we want to understand why. IBS, so insulin resistance is causing some problems with IBS because your gut microbiome is off when it's inundated with sugar and when the insulin is not acting correctly. I can go over gut issues tomorrow in depth if you guys want. Oh, okay. What else? Did I miss anything else? So let's talk about the gut microbiome because this is really, really important. You crave it so bad you just don't know what to do. Linda, I missed the part about what you're craving. Sugar. Let's talk about sugar cravings. Can we talk about that real quick? Because what's happening with sugar cravings, the 2 things I like to focus on are these. Your brain needs glucose to function. When your brain is shutting down, the blood-brain barrier is shutting down, and when you're not getting insulin delivering sugar to the brain, you're starting to have brain fog, you're starting to have anxiety, you're starting to have fatigue, you start to have all those other things. But one of the things that happens is now your brain is tired and it's like, I need energy, just like your body does. And so it's cueing you to be hungry because all your brain knows is that it needs more glucose. It's not saying, oh, all my insulin receptors are shut down. It can't bring insulin, it can't bring the glucose in. It's just like, give me energy now. And so now you're hungry for sugar. Have you ever noticed when you're very emotional, you crave more sugar? Part of it, right? The other side of that is in your gut. And believe it or not, your gut, your heart, and your brain all have high amounts of neurons, these little messaging centers. So when the brain is unhealthy, it's talking to the gut. When the gut is unhealthy, it's talking to the brain, and they're both affecting your heart. So you have three the basic thinking centers in your body. It's not just your brain. Your brain, your heart, and your gut all have some type of capacity for what we call thinking, right? Now, when we have insulin resistance, this is going on in your gut, causing some IBS and some dysregulation of your stools. Either you have constipation because you're not passing it through, your gut's freezing up, nerve endings are not firing right, so your stomach is not contracting, your intestines are not contracting, your gallbladder is not contracting, and you're starting to have blockages down there. That constipation is like an early sign of gastroparesis, which is common with diabetes. So when that all is happening, you also have this dysbiosis in your gut. Your gut microbiome is off. The negative, what we call the negative gut bacteria. And by the way, we need them both. We don't ever want to get rid of what we're terming negative bacteria in our gut. We need a balance of them. But what we're calling the positive bacteria gets overrun by these negative bacteria because the negative bacteria feed on sugar. The positive bacteria feed on fiber. Very simplistic form of it, I know. But so sugar is feeding that negative gut microbiome. Now you have IBS, you have some gas and bloating, you have some other problems, and all that inflammation in your gut is leaking out and causing other autoimmune disorders. But in the meantime, your cravings are coming because your brain is tired, but now your gut also says all of this negative gut microbiome, and there's like, woo, we're having a party, but we need energy, and what we feed on is sugar. Now you're craving sugar. It's actually that negative gut microbiome that's craving your sugar. So we've got to get those under control. Zero carb, zero sugar breads. So what happens with zero carb, zero sugar breads is there are sometimes enough additives in there and other additives that can spike your your sugar more rapidly. I just heard Dr. Bickman talking about this and another doctor, I think it was Dr. Hyman, talking about this, and I don't have all the tea on it, right? I just heard what these doctors that I trust said, and they're like, they're not necessarily like keto breads and stuff are not necessarily what they would like. There's a binder in those breads that's like gluten-free and lower sugar that's causing insulin spikes. So be careful with those. Levothyroxine. So Shark, your doctor has prescribed you metformin and levothyroxine. I was on both of those medications 2.5 years ago, not on either one of them now. Levothyroxine is a synthetic thyroid and it can be helpful. I would encourage you to find someone who can do like a compounded thyroid and really understand your thyroid levels, because levothyroxine is just a standard, like they can up the dose of it, but what they're not taking into consideration is, are you getting cues from the brain enough to produce the thyroid hormones? And are you getting the cues to take the inactive thyroid into the active thyroid? And are your cells being able to use the active thyroid inside your body, right? That's all crazy. Like, who knew? It's not just about those numbers on your labs. It's about looking at your symptoms and seeing what's going on, because you could have normal levels of TSH, T4, and T3, and yet your body's not able to convert or utilize those in the way that you need to have the energy that you're needing to have. So I'm not on either one of those now. I am doing a compounded thyroid, which I forgot to take this morning because I was rushing. But so what they did was they looked at my thyroid levels, and my thyroid levels are all in normal range, but there was one that was a little low. And I think it was my T3 was like in normal range, but a little to the low side, which means I'm having problems with that converting T4 to T3. And there's a lot of that's a whole other conversation that we can have. But I'm not on either one of those medications now. Berberine. Let's talk about berberine. As berberine has similar effects to metformin, but what? And I'm not negating that berberine can work, but what in my mind, when I'm connecting all the dots, I'm going to go over the system that I use because berberine does a good job. But what I want to do is say, when I have glucose coming into my body, I'm going to do something that's natural that my body needs that lowers those blood sugar spikes. So berberine can lower a blood sugar spike, yes. But what I do, you guys, you see me drinking a tea this morning. So I have this tea. I'm going to go over what those do. But before I eat anything, I have this, which is fiber and phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals. What happens with this, and so please hear me, because I have some people lately who started and they're like, I feel so full before I even eat. Yes, you should. We're not used to that feeling because we're not getting in enough fiber. So we're not getting that satiety cue. And so you're going back to thinking, some of these people are going back to thinking, well, I need to eat the same amount as I was. Well, no, that's part of the problem. But the fiber is key because what's happening when you get fiber in before you eat, every time you eat, is this. It's creating a matrix. Ours has 7 different fibers, soluble and insoluble. So soluble is creating a gel matrix that allows it to encapsulate the sugars and the fats. The insoluble is creating a web, so they're long, strandy fibers, a web that kind of baskets that soluble fiber. And now you have this prophylactic for sugar and fats that's encapsulating those and slowing down how quickly they go into your intestine and get absorbed into your bloodstream. So, I'm not a proponent of any medications. You know, when you're like septic or something and you need an antibiotic, yes, thank God for those medications, right? But when we're talking about type 2 diabetes, it's a dietary problem. Why are you trying to force your body into normal numbers while you're not addressing your diet? You're just giving a medication. So why not address the diet that caused the type 2 diabetes in the first place? And it's simple, you guys. It's about how quickly blood sugar is being delivered to our system. We didn't have this problem with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, kidney disease, insulin resistance or diabetes 50 years ago. Why is it that per capita we have such a problem with those things now? Because our food has changed. Our genetics don't change that quickly in 50 years, but our food certainly has. So our food has been simplified, it's been modified, it's been manufactured. Even the raw organic foods you eat have been changed. Not just genetically, they've changed it and stripped out fibers and increased sugars and all of that. We have not been doing crop rotation. So now our foods are slower and lower in. Some of them are lower by 50% in some of the nutrients that we're supposed to be getting in. So you pick up a head of broccoli and you're like, oh, this is really dense in vitamins and minerals. It's really high in fiber. I should eat this. But most of us are having a serving like this of broccoli. But if we needed to get in the amount of fiber we need to help with all of this, to help with the gut microbiome, to help with everything I'm talking about, you'd have to eat like a bushel of broccoli. How many of you guys are going to buy or eat a bushel of broccoli a day? That bushel of broccoli is going to cost you more than this, by the way. This, I mix in some water. And drink it down 10 minutes before I eat. Slows down the blood sugar spike by 20% and insulin spike by 13%, and I'm good. Now I'm getting prebiotics into my system that's helping my gut, that's helping me be healthy all the way around, and that's how I got over all of these things. So I'm just not a medication or a proponent of medications. I worked in medical clinics, and I have 2 family members who worked for big pharma. Am I an expert on it all? No, but I have a really good understanding of what's going on there, and I'm just not the person to push those. Okay, I'm not. You can find another person who can tell you about Jardiance if that's the way you go. But what I want you to understand is if you start paying attention, there are more and more and more lawsuits over those drugs because what they're doing is they're artificially creating an environment in your system. But again, it's not addressing what caused that to go wrong in the first place. You want to address what caused it. So look, if you broke your leg, 2 things. If you broke your leg and you couldn't walk, Would you just go to the doctor, have him hand you a crutch and say, okay, now you can walk? The leg is still broken, but you can walk because you have a crutch. That's what medication is doing. Do you want them to go in and set that leg, fix it, cast it, use the crutch when you need to, but cast it? Now, eventually, you're going to be able to walk again. The third part of it is understanding what you did to break the leg. Did you jump off a three-story building and break your leg? Well, maybe you shouldn't do that again. But they're not addressing that, right? They're not saying, oh, hey, don't go out and ride that motorcycle over a cliff and break up all your bones. They're not saying do all of that. They're going, okay, let's give you a crutch, let's give you some pain medications, and there you go. Medications are like giving you a crutch without fixing the problem. Bottom line, you want to fix the problem and then you can start to feel better, right? And you want to be aware of what caused the problem in the first place. That's going to help even more. Um, okay, so high blood pressure, we went over the 5 ways, and now we're going to talk about insulin resistance. You know that insulin resistance is a blood sugar regulation problem, and the hormone that's carrying the blood sugars around is insulin. Insulin's out of control. For most of us, insulin is out of control. And so the next thing I hear from people is, how do I know, how do I tell if I'm insulin resistant? And that's a really good question. I have a tab in my TikTok that says how to tell. In there are 2 videos currently. You're going to get some more, but there's a calculation in there if you want to go have an extra blood test called a HOMA, HOMAIR, insulin resistant test. That test alone is not going to give you a clear picture. That test will cost you about $30 more than your, according to Dr. Ekberg, it'll cost you about $30 more than your standard complete metabolic panel. But now you use that calculation and you have a more clear picture of glucose and HOMA-IR. It's in my well, hell, it's glucose times HOMA-IR. And if you're in the US and you're doing milligrams per deciliter, you want to divide it by 407. And what you end up with should be 0.5 to 1.5. And then you should be in normal range for IR. If it's not, then you're probably having an insulin resistance or an insulin dysregulation problem in your body. We're going to talk about when they give you insulin in a second too, because that cued that. But that video is in there. The second calculation you can do with the labs you already have. It's not as clear a picture as the one I just talked about, but this calculation, and especially for your blood pressure, because this calculation is not only telling you your risk for insulin resistance, it's telling you your risk for hypertension or cardiovascular diseases related to hypertension. So if you go to your current labs and you find that cholesterol panel, I want you to get the triglyceride number out of it, and I want you to get the HDL number out of that. Write those down. Most people, you can actually look at it. If your triglycerides are above 150 and your HDL is below 50 for women and below 40 for men, you already know you got a problem. But you want to do this calculation. You're going to take the triglycerides and divide it by the HDL, and the resulting number should be 1.5 or less. Now, you'll find this on the NIH, National Institutes of Health. Dr. Bickman talks about it in his book, this book, Why We Get Sick. But that calculation can give you an indication with labs of where you're at with your insulin resistance. I've had a lot of people say, well, my number is like 1.5 or my number is 1, but I still have these problems. So great. If you still have these problems, then start addressing the root of it. Understand that all of these things are arrows pointing to one thing. So even if those calculations are starting to look normal, but you're suffering from these, what we're missing right now in medicine is that they're looking at the overarching lab numbers, right? How many of your doctors are focused on your lab numbers? That's the metric. Like, okay, the lab numbers look good. Now they're having all these problems. I can't figure out why they're having those problems. So I don't know what to do with you. Go lose some weight, go exercise more. You're going to feel better. So we need to start paying more and more attention to the symptoms that you're having along with those labs. If you're having 2 or more of those, you're likely insulin resistant. And look at, if it's not taking food to fix it, or if it's not taking medication to fix it, we're addressing the environment of food that we have, our modern food environment, and we're addressing that first. That's probably worth it, you guys. We don't need to make it so complicated. But those two calculations, okay? And they'll both be in the how to tell tab on my TikTok. And yeah, we'll get it fixed over on YouTube too. But those are the calculations. Now, there are some other ways that you can tell if you're insulin resistant. I just did a video on this yesterday, so it's still at the top of my playlist right now. You can go find that video, but it talks about all of these symptoms. If you're having any of these symptoms, you're likely insulin resistant. If you're thirsty more often, and you just can't seem to drink enough water, you're probably having an insulin resistance problem. If you're peeing more, yeah, you're going to pee more if you're drinking more, right? I get that. But like I'm talking about, you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom multiple times. I was doing that and I refused to believe that it was a precursor to diabetes. I was like, nope, I'm healthy. My blood sugars are normal. My A1C is normal. Everything is fine. I don't know. I just drink so much water that I am peeing all the time. Now I don't wake up in the night to use the restroom. I go to bed, I wake up in the morning. I'm not having that nighttime interruption for urination. So if you're having that, that's a sign, right? If you're having brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, yeah, there are some other issues, neurological issues that could cause those. But the number one issue that's linked to most of those is insulin resistance. It's been linked even to autism and Parkinson's and especially to dementia. So anxiety, depression, if you're having those, get the blood sugar under control, get the insulin under control, and those things can start to get better. It doesn't take all these crazy medications. It takes watching what you're eating as far as our modern food environment, fixing what the gaps are in our food environment, and then doing some things like go to bed on time, put your blue screens away, uh, stop being awake until 2 a.m. and then trying to get up at 6 a.m. I'm speaking to myself right now because I do that. Those things all cause other regulation problems in your body. Food and lifestyle are going to fix this problem. Okay. For most of us, it's going to fix the problem. Medications are just a band-aid that's covering up a wound that's not healing. It's not healing. So Rybelsus and to me, the GLP-1s and all of those things are just a band-aid. They're not fixing the problem. They're just covering it up. So I'm not a proponent. Okay. What I do again is I do a tea in the morning. It took me off of 13 different medications and got all of this under control. So I drink the tea in the morning and it is giving me energy and mental clarity. It delivers components to my brain. That's why I have the energy and mental clarity. So now that energy uptake in my brain is being fixed, but it's also giving me cues in my brain not to be hungry. It's giving me cues in my gut that I don't need to be hungry. It has anti-cancer properties. It has antioxidant properties. And it's really heart healthy. This is one of the reasons I was so scared at first because I'm like, how can I have so much energy and it's not hurting my heart? I'm terrified. But I'm like, I got to do something. I got to start somewhere. So I stuck with it. And it took me over a year for my blood pressure to normalize. Because look, my blood pressure was 180 over 150 every single day before this at some point. The best we could get it to in the doctor's office was 150 over 110. 6 days on this, I got my first normal or semi-normal blood pressure reading, and it was like 126 over 84. And my doctor was shocked. I was shocked. I screamed like a little girl in the office because I had not seen that kind of blood pressure in my chart in years. Now, did it stay there? No. It kind of went up and down for a while. It just got better over time. And now I'm not on any prescribed medications. And this is what I do. So and you'll find it in my link up here, you guys. So that's where you're going to find the tea. If you tap on my picture when the white box comes up, tap that again. And then you'll find red lights with a link under it. Click on that link. You'll find the system I use there. So this tea does a lot of good. Plus, it's helping with fat burning. It's helping with ketone production. It's helping with a number of issues. So satiety, reduced hunger, increased energy because you're using your own fat for fuel, but it's also taking these components called chlorogenic acids. And there's 375 times more chlorogenic acids in this yerba mate tea than there is in a regular bagged yerba mate tea. So it's extracted, it's concentrated, and it's super clean. We've taken it to a lab in Switzerland that cleans out all the toxins and pesticides, not all, but the majority of them. So do I want to steep 375 bags of tea a day and get all the pesticides and toxins? No. Or do I just want to drink this, mix it up and water wherever I am and go. That's what I choose to do. The second part of it is now have this in the morning and I do a 16-8 fast. I will go over how I eat in a day in just a minute because I just got a message this morning. It was like, hey, can you give us some food suggestions? Can you give us some ideas for, how to eat if we're diabetic? It's going to look very differently than you've been told. And I don't like to give uh, a whole list of foods because everybody has a different diet. And so I want you to know you can have the diet you like. We're going to focus on some overarching um, keys, okay? The second component, combined with the 16-8 fast, is I just do this. Again, I mix it in some water and about this much water. For me, it's like 6 ounces of water. Shake it up, drink it down, wait 10 minutes. Now I eat. Why? The 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers in there, the phytosterols and the vitamins and minerals are all designed to help with metabolism. But in the immediate, why 10 minutes? That 10 minutes allows those fibers to start soaking up the water, be activated by the enzymes in your gut, and then it starts to blow up in your gut. And so, yeah, you start to feel fuller. Okay. I'm not making fun of anybody, but you guys, I talk about this all the time. One of the keys is it starts to make you full before you even eat. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So then that starts to make you full before you eat. You're less likely to overeat. When you do eat, those sugars and those fats are going into this matrix of fiber and it's slowing down the delivery of it into your intestines, which means it's slowing down the delivery into your bloodstream. Is it removing pieces from what you eat? No. It's just slowing down the delivery. So now you're not getting a huge blood sugar spike that then drops. You're getting a lower and slower blood sugar spike. So it's more normalized and your insulin reaction to it is more normalized. And so now you start to feel better because your body's like, oh, we're in a panic mode with insulin all the time. We can have a normal life again. So we're going to be receptive to insulin. Come on in. We're going to do what we need to do. And we're going to start to feel better. It doesn't say what it is. Sherry White. It's the Feel Great system. It's in my link. Now, why do I want you to use my link? Because if you go on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, what you're getting is you're not getting guarantees. So I haven't even gone over that. You get a 90-day money back guarantee. Please do it for 90 days. Do not start this if you're going to just give up in 30 days. Okay. It's real food. It's going to take time, but this is a healthy way. This is not the injection. I forced your body to do something. Now you're having gallbladder, pancreatic, thyroid problems. It's a natural system that's filling in the gaps, that's helping reverse what's been going on in your diet, that's helping your body start to get back to homeostasis. So when you go to Amazon, Walmart, eBay, you're not getting those guarantees. You're not getting the low price guarantee. Every single person who has called me and said, Misha, I bought it, but I have questions. And I'm like, I don't see you. I don't see that you bought it because everybody who buys it from me gets emails, they get texts, they get access to me. I spent 45 minutes on a FaceTime call with a woman last night who bought it just to help her understand more about what's going on. You don't get that from Amazon, eBay, Walmart. Plus, every single person has paid about $100 more. Enough of that. Just use the link. It's going to take you right to the company's website, link you to me so I can help you out. And then you get all the guarantees. Okay. So it's right there at the top. If you go to my link, it says the system I use. Click on it. It's going to show you everything. All right, guys, it's almost time for me to be jumping off and going and making those phone calls and doing the stuff I talk about. Now, before I come on tomorrow, tell me what you guys want me to talk about. I know somebody mentioned IBS. Do you guys want to talk about gut issues? Some people have been talking about PCOS. I can go over that. Is there anything up here? Neuropathy, neurological disorders? What do you guys want to hear about tomorrow? So tomorrow and Friday, we have 2 days left this week. I would love to cover what you have questions about and bring you more information about why insulin resistance is linked to that. So if you have a choice, your gut, Grammy, okay, gut, IBS and gut issues. Looks like talking about gut tomorrow, which is great because it's so important, you guys. And talking about the gut issues is going to tell you why this fiber is so important. One other thing about the fiber I use, Grammy Gloria uses the fiber and the system as well. is most of us are only getting in, this is by scientific data, most of us are only getting in 10 to 15 grams of fiber a day. We need to be getting in 30 to 40 grams of fiber, and we're just not getting it in. That fiber is what's creating your gut health. Fiber is what's called a prebiotic. It's helping feed those probiotic. If you remember when I was talking earlier about the gut, and I said there's negative gut microbiota and there's positive, and the negative by and large feeds off of sugar, and the positive feeds off of fiber. We have way too much sugar and not enough fiber, and now we have this dysbiosis. Way too many negative gut microbiome and not enough positive. So we're going to go over all of that in depth tomorrow and why fiber is so important, but the system is addressing all of that. Now, some of the comments that I get from people when they first start the system, and I want to address this, is I have some gas and bloating. I have maybe it's diarrhea. It's uncomfortable. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Do you know why it's uncomfortable? Because you're only getting in less than half of what you should be of a super nutrient that's super important to your health, and your gut's just not used to it. So if you think about, like, I haven't done squats in probably a year. If I were to go to the gym and even do squats with a bar and not put any weight on it really, I would have legs that are so sore I could hardly walk tomorrow. Hey, Della the fella. So this is what's happening in your gut. Your gut has not had to work. You guys, we have created food. I was talking about this last night to one of my clients, one of my family, sorry. We've created this environment where we're not chewing enough. Our jaws are starting to retract. We are not getting in enough fiber. Our gut's not working hard enough. We're sitting on our asses all the time. We're not getting exercise. We've created this environment that we're turning into a gelatin mass. Of course, your gut's going to hurt because it's not used to doing work that it's meant to do. So those fibers are helping. It will get better. I had one person who was a former coach of mine. It lasted for about a month for him, and it was unbearably uncomfortable. But he pushed through because he's got that mindset, and he started feeling better. His gut started functioning more properly. His elimination was more, and just fatigue and whatnot was starting to go down. You've got to give your gut time to get stronger. And if it's too much for you, call me and I give you some ideas as to how to make it work until your gut is strong enough. Because it's just like anything else. If your gut's not strong enough and it's causing over discomfort, I'm going to help you to get your gut stronger so that it can do the job and now your health can come back. So we'll talk about gut, IBS, and I'm going to write this down because somebody else, acid reflux and stomach. So, and all of that links in. And acid reflux is highly linked to insulin resistance. I used to have severe acid reflux, gastritis, all of that. It's not a problem for me anymore unless I happen to have a human day where I get into stuff that I shouldn't. And then I'm like, oh, yep, this is why I don't do that anymore. Okay, so we're going to go over gut tomorrow. You guys, thank you all for your participation this morning. Thanks for bearing with me when we had the issues earlier. Are there any other questions for me this morning? And if you're interested in what's going on in your gut, your microbiome, IBS, Crohn's disease, acid reflux, and this also links into gallbladder issues, which I'm not going to cover highly tomorrow, but it links into all of those things, why from your mouth to your butt, you're having problems. Oh, I wanted to finish that talk. We're doing things, and somebody asked about protein shakes. Yes, I use protein shakes from time to time too, especially when I'm having a busy day and I know that my meals weren't high enough in protein and I just need to get that in. I will use it too. But here's the truth. It doesn't really matter why, but I just heard this last week. A dentist was talking about how we're not chewing enough. They're seeing more and more people's jaws retracting and having problems with abscesses and issues just because we're not chewing and we're not eating enough. So yeah, that steak that takes a while to chew and get so that you can eat it is important. Also, when you're chewing, you're getting digestive enzymes that are being created. It's cueing. That chewing action is creating a link that says, ooh, we need digestive enzymes. Now it gets to your gut and it starts to go better. Because we are drinking too much stuff, smoothies, fruit juice, all of that, we're not chewing enough, we're not digesting enough, we're not getting enough fiber, and it's causing a lot of problems. We're going to go in depth with that tomorrow. But pay attention to the foods you're eating. If they're soft and they're not creating you enough time to chew, your jaw's weakening too. And so that doesn't have as much to do with insulin resistance, just as overall health. You've got to start using that jaw. Yep. When we're drinking so much stuff and making food so soft and easy because we want it easy, but we want it to taste good, we're causing problems. Okay, guys, I'm gonna hop off. And I will be back at 8:30 tomorrow. Hopefully all those issues that were causing lag this morning have been fixed. And look for some videos today. I will try to do one on heart health and that other calculation. And then we'll see you in the morning, okay? And think about what questions you want me to answer. And I will go find the answers. If I don't know them offhand, I will go find them. Because at the end, I'm just a woman like you guys who got sick, who found a way to get better, and now I'm trying to share that with everybody. So if you want to use the system that I use that helped me get my heart under control and all of the other things, brain fog, fatigue, all of that, it's 3 packets that I do in a day, a tea in the morning and a pre-meal drink before I eat anything, real food products that gave me my health back and got me off of 13 medications. It's in my bio, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay? Have a good day, you guys. Bye, Mel.